In today's NBA, versatility gets hyped up more than ever. But the truth is plenty of players have survived for years by being elite at just one thing. People like to call them one-trick ponies. Let's be real, though, I hate that label because it makes it sound like they were trash at everything else. The reality is, these guys milked their one skill to the max and turned it into a career. In this video, we're looking at 6 NBA players who were only great at one thing, and honestly, maybe that's all they needed. Oh, look at that slick move. Almost looking like a point guard. Andre Drummond. Drummond came into the league in 2012 at just 19 years old. And if we're keeping it real, he never really developed anything beyond rebounding. He entered as an elite glass cleaner. He led the league in total rebounds for 4 seasons. He led the league in offensive rebounds for 7 seasons, proving his ridiculous knack for being in the right spot. It's like the ball was drawn to his hands. Of course, a lot of those boards came because he bricked easy shots, then just grabbed his own miss over and over again. Look at him snatch 3 offensive rebounds in one play. Either way, you can't deny his dominance on the boards made people think he should also be a great defender, an unstoppable pick-and-roll big, and maybe even a legit post scorer. I mean, he's a 7-footer, 280 pounds, semi-athletic, with a freakish 7 feet 6 inches wingspan. The guy's built like a tank, easily bigger than most centers. Yet somehow, outside of rebounding, he looks way smaller than his body suggests. For example, he never even averaged 2 blocks a game. His defensive awareness is terrible, mostly because he's slow and constantly zoning out. At the rim, he shoots just 64%, while guys like Rudy Gobert or DeAndre Jordan live way higher than that. Drummond's finishing is flat-out embarrassing for his size, even compared to other centers who can't shoot. If you only judged him by the box score, you'd fall for the lie that he's a good offensive player. People see the points and field goal percentage and assume, oh, he can score. But he really can't. When you look at true shooting percentage, Drummond was usually below average, and way below the standard for other big men in his era. Most of his offense was just catching the ball near the rim, and even then he often screwed it up. To be fair, playing in Detroit didn't help since those teams were built horribly. But when you add in the fact that he never had a jumper and was one of the worst free throw shooters ever, it gets ugly. Among all qualified players, Drummond's career free throw percentage of 48.6% is the 3rd worst in NBA history, only ahead of Ben Wallace and DeAndre Jordan. Saying he's only good at rebounding is actually being nice. He's flat-out useless in almost every other part of the game. The guy is straight-up awful. And that's why, despite being one of the best rebounders ever, Drummond has rarely made any real positive impact on his teams. Kyle Korver. Now here's where it gets interesting. You could throw in pretty much any 3-point specialist for a video like this. Guys like JJ Redick, Klay Thompson, or even Steve Novak come to mind. But I picked Korver because not only was he below average at literally everything else, he still made an all-star team based purely on shooting threes. The Hawks did win 60 games that season, but still, everyone was hyping. Everyone hopped on the Hawks bandwagon, but the fact that Korver was chosen as an all-star is ridiculous. It just proves how insane his shooting was. Korver led the league in 3-point percentage 4 different times, but he was most famous during his Utah stint, where he set the NBA record for the best 3-point percentage in a season at 53.6%. That's automatic Korver from deep. The rest of his game, though? Yeah, pretty ugly. Unlike JJ Redick, who ran around screens non-stop with elite conditioning, or Klay Thompson, who locked up players defensively, Korver was never close to being a good defender. Klay was a two-way beast. Korver? Just a simple catch-and-shoot guy. Back then, offenses didn't demand much movement, so he got away with it. As for playmaking, attacking off the dribble, or even passing, non-existent. Still, it's wild that Korver carved out a long career doing nothing but shooting, and he played over 1,200 games. If he entered today's NBA, he'd struggle to stay on the floor because just being a shooter isn't enough. You need to guard people and add something else, or you'll get exposed fast. He's the perfect example of timing saving a career. The 3-point era was just getting started, and Korver was one of the early guys who leaned into it, which gave his teams a real advantage. That's why his value was higher back then. Tony Allen. The defense-only player has almost disappeared in today's NBA. Just like with shooters, you can't survive by only bringing one skill anymore. But during Allen's peak, known as the Grindfather, he made an entire career off-perimeter defense alone. He was named to 6 all-defensive teams with the Grizzlies and was a massive reason they ranked top 10 in defense year after year. Allen was flat-out annoying to play against. It's up to Tony Allen to shut him down. Smothering Damian Lillard and ripping the ball away was routine. When superstars were asked which defender gave them the most headaches, Kobe, LeBron, and even Durant all said Tony Allen was the toughest matchup. At 6 feet 4 inches and 210 pounds, he was undersized for a shooting guard, but his stocky frame and lightning-quick hands let him bully bigger guys and suffocate smaller ones. He'd get in your space before you could even dribble. Sadly, that's about as far as his skill set went. That was the limit of Allen's game. The Grizzlies made the playoffs 7 straight years from 2011 to 2017, and Allen was there for all of it. But their biggest weakness was always offense. They had no reliable creators, which made their offense slow, clunky, and easy to predict. During the rise of pace and space, when teams stacked up on ball handlers and scorers, Memphis stayed stuck in the past. And sure, it wasn't only Tony Allen's fault that their offense was trash, but his total lack of offensive ability didn't help either. Defense can only carry you so far. Allen, a shooting guard, laughably averaged just 1 assist per game in his career. In today's NBA, no way he'd get away with that. The team badly needed another perimeter threat, and Allen never gave them one. Still, he managed to last 14 seasons, putting every ounce of his game into one skill, and that's at least worth some respect. For about 5 or 6 years, he was arguably the best perimeter defender alive, and that defense alone kept him in the league. Kenneth Faried. If the NBA had a dictionary entry for hustle and energy, his face would be right there. If there was ever a picture next to the word energy, it would be Kenneth Faried. Now, I'm not saying he had the most hustle ever, because plenty of guys made careers just by competing hard, but Faried is the best example of someone who only stayed on the court because of nonstop effort. You could say he was a solid rebounder, but truthfully, his positioning and boxing out were weak. He just chased boards by outworking whoever stood in front of him. The rest of his game, pretty bad across the board. His energy covered up the fact that his skill set was empty. That's why by age 29, he was already done with the NBA. The hunger, the drive, the fire, that was gone. And when a player like Faried loses passion, he has nothing to fall back on because he never had real skills to begin with. His whole NBA career was built on energy plays, catching lobs, sprinting to the rim, grabbing boards, and fake hustle defense that looked better than it really was. But being just 6 feet 8 inches at power forward or center made things worse. It's already tough to last at that size. It's even harder when you've got no bag. But Faried carved out a niche in Denver because he showed up at the right time. The Nuggets were rebuilding, trying out young players, and running at a non-stop pace. They ranked top 5 in pace for 4 straight years. With that system, Faried fit perfectly because all he had to do was sprint the floor and his energy would translate into instant impact. It worked when the rest of the roster was young and also flying up and down the court. But once the Nuggets shifted to a new style with Jokic running the offense, Faried completely fell off. In a half-court system, when defenses actually game-planned for him, he was exposed fast. With no real skills and very limited physical tools, there was nothing he could do. Jason Williams. Okay, it took me a while to decide on players for this list, and I wasn't sure if Jason Williams really fit. But despite his flaws, his style was iconic, fueled entirely by his insane passing ability. He earned the nickname White Chocolate because of his flash, creativity, and the way he looked like he was freestyling every possession. At his peak, very few players in history could put on a show like Jason Williams. But outside of passing, his game was weak. He was a terrible jump shooter, with multiple seasons where he chucked up over 6 threes a night while hitting under 30%. He was always near the top in attempts but near the bottom in accuracy. His fame exploded in Sacramento during his first 3 years, as he turned into a walking highlight reel. For a while, you could argue he was the league's most exciting player. But his actual production never lived up to the hype. Williams was reckless, constantly playing out of control and ignoring coaches. He even had a season where he averaged nearly 4 turnovers a game while putting up 7 assists. On top of that, he got suspended and fined multiple times for his behavior. Sacramento only broke through once they shipped him out for Mike Bibby. Bibby wasn't flashy like Jay Will, but he brought consistency and leadership, exactly what the Kings needed. Over time, Williams' passing stayed his only truly elite skill. Even though Williams improved in certain areas, like his three-point shot, and he calmed down enough to win a championship as Miami's starting point guard, his career faded quickly. The issue was that no matter how much he expanded his game, his reputation never changed. Coaches gave him a short leash, and every mistake cost him minutes until he eventually retired. Roy Hibbert. Remember the term verticality? Hibbert basically put that word on the map because nobody really used it before him. The concept is simple. If a defender jumps straight up to contest a shot, it counts as legal defense even with body contact. For starters, in double figures. Smith drives. Blocked again. Off Smith. Pacers ball. Hibbert, standing 7 feet 2 inches with perfect timing, mastered this verticality rule and turned it into his greatest weapon, making him one of the most impactful defenders of his era. In back-to-back years, 2013 and 2014, the Pacers finished with the league's best defense, and Hibbert was the anchor. He locked down the paint so well that even elite offenses couldn't break them, until the playoffs came around. Hill drops it inside to Hibbert, blocked by Korver. Kyle Korver, not exactly a rim protector. Looking back at that replay, you can see why. Despite Hibbert's verticality, he didn't really have any other strong points in his game. Outside the paint, his defense was weak, and small ball lineups like the Heat and even the Hawks exposed him whenever the floor was spread with shooters. For a 7 feet 2 inches, 270-pound center, you'd think his rebounding would at least be solid, but it wasn't. In the brutal 2014 playoff series against Atlanta, Hibbert grabbed fewer than 5 boards in 5 of the 7 games, including the infamous 0-rebound outing and back-to-back scoreless games. On top of that, his scoring efficiency was awful for a player his size. He had multiple seasons shooting just 44 to 45% from the field despite most of his shots coming inside the paint. I still remember Shaq clowning him on live TV, saying Hibbert should be averaging 28 and 15, but that was never realistic. Over time, people began to view his Pacers' success as kind of a fluke. It was the perfect setup. Indiana's whole defense was designed to funnel players into the giant that was Hibbert so he could jump straight up and contest shots with his verticality. That system worked in Indiana, but the second he left, it all went downhill. He couldn't adapt. Once the only thing he was good at got neutralized, he was basically useless. While the center position was evolving with new bigs showing more skill, Hibbert stayed stuck in the Stone Age. And unlike Brook Lopez, he never put in the work to expand his game and stay relevant. Within just 2 seasons of leaving the Pacers, Hibbert was completely out of the league. And that's 6 NBA players who managed to find success by being great at just one thing. For each of them, that one skill was enough to carry them to long, solid careers where, at least at some point, they made an impact on their teams. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who else do you think had a long career by only doing one thing? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.